Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Advisor. I am Lisa Urbanski from The Advisor, co-host of the show. Have you ever wondered about a doctor's journey? Why they are doing what they're doing, where they came from? I know I always wonder that when I was sitting in the doctor's offices, especially as a youngster going through some stuff, and I was in there for hours, and I was like, I wonder who these people actually are. Well, you're in for a treat because today I have Dr. Demian with us, and he is going to share his personal journey. He is a visionary in modern medicine and co-founder of Pain Care Clinics. So he has had a long road of experience in emergency rooms, and I want to know where he came from, and I know you guys are curious as well. So before I bring him on the stage, I just want to say thanks to Spreaker and iHeartRadio for your sponsorship. Without you, this conversation would not happen. It's really good to see you again. I commented on there's no green today, but I like the background.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me, Lisa.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. Um, so yeah, I know the first time we spoke, that was one of the things that I wondered is like, where did this guy come from? What was his journey like? Why is he doing what he's doing? And you mentioned some really exciting things, race car driving for one. I was like, what? So I'm excited to get into your story and I'd love for you to introduce yourself as Hany Demian without the DR in front of it.
I really appreciate it, and I appreciate giving me the opportunity. My backstory has been a long and, in my opinion, exciting. And before I start, I always said, hope is not a plan. And I learned that really young um, in my career. But no matter how much planning we do, Lisa, things just happen. And sometimes whatever high power we believe in will direct your life to actually a better option, a better place than you ever think. And from my story, you will hear that and you will actually realize that no matter how much I plan, I've never ever finished the plan and it was interrupted by a higher power. I'm very religious and spiritual, and I believe that God directed me to where I am now. So it's just fascinating when I sit down with myself and reflect. So I am Egyptian. I was born and raised by two Egyptian parents. My mom was a teacher. My dad is a physician. He was actually in the army. And after the army in Egypt, he decided to continue on his own and be a doctor. So he was a doctor in the army. Then he decided to leave and get a better opportunity, whether in the US or in Saudi. And Saudi, of course, was paying a little bit better. So he went to
Mm.
Saudi. I wish he did the other way, but he went to Saudi and he did very well for himself in there. And every year we used to visit him in March break. And the day that school finishes, my mom will take me and my sister to fly back and we spend the whole summer with him in Saudi. That being said, because he was a doctor and I didn't get to see him a lot, I thought that medicine took him away from me for a long time, right? So two things. He loved soccer. He would actually will call in late for work to watch a soccer game. Is that obsessed, right?
Love that.
I remember when the national team in Egypt lost one day, I thought he's going to have a heart attack. He's that really passionate about that. So I never watched a soccer game in my life. I just didn't want to get hooked or just be so passionate about something like that. Yeah. So medicine and soccer were my biggest enemy that took my dad away in my young age. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do so well in school and I'm gonna be a business. And I didn't really realize the passion to business until um, second year in high school, when I was bored and my mom said, "Why don't you go work with your uncle?" My uncle is a wholesaler for razors, shaving foams from Gillette. He was a big distributor, and he is still actually in Cairo. So I used to take razors and shaving equipment door to door convenience stores. And and that was my first real job that I actually earned my own money. And Lisa, I couldn't imagine how hard it is to earn a dollar, right? In the sun of Egypt, walking door to door. So I decided, you know what? I can't do this alone after 2 weeks. So I recruited few of my friends and I said, you know what? Let's do this in a little bit of a scale. So I had four friends and we were going door to door. So the money get a little bit better. And they used to have a split with them. Profit sharing, as we call it now, was the doctors. So anyway, so that was my first real business. I said, oh, I think I'm good at that. At the end of the summer, going back to school, uh, my friend said, you're different. I said, how so? I said, you're more quiet, you're more reasonable. You grew up
Reasonable.
quite a bit. Yeah, you grew up quite a bit in during the summer break. I said, how so? I said, you're not just, I think you earned a little bit of depth, right? Because I had my first contact with the real world and hardworking people. So it was actually life-changing experience. That was my first project. And then finished in Cairo, but I really insisted on going into business school. That was the passion. The day I was going to apply to the American University in Cairo, AUC, there was a terrorist attack and there was a bombing outside that school. They were targeting a political figure. Unfortunately, it was very close there, and there were a lot of people. So I arrived a few hours after the bombing, not knowing what happened, and there was blood everywhere, limbs everywhere, dead people, dead bodies, and people screaming and crying everywhere. So I sat down and said, okay, what am I doing now? I said, I really like that. So I jumped in, was very curious about the blood, didn't scare me whatsoever, very curious about
Wow.
helping people, very passionate about it, seeing how can I help with whatever, just even bringing some water, helping the police, helping the authorities in there, but mainly helping the people um, that are waiting to get shipped to the hospital. And I really enjoyed it so much. I went home, threw out the application for the business school, and I said, I'm going to apply for medical. So I looked in my grades and I said, yes, I will be eligible for those schools. And I applied and I got accepted in the first one of the top medical schools um, in Egypt. The first day in medical school, I was so happy, so excited. And um, people couldn't believe that I switched from business that I've been talking about it for years to medical all of a sudden. So going back to the school year or the college year, um, said, how did you change your mind? And it was just the passion of helping people um, in their most vulnerable time that really
Yeah,
changed.
that's incredible. I'm a few things there, but I'm picturing the scene and how insanely scary that would have been. But at the same time, it was like you found something within yourself. You're like, I'm naturally good at this, like I'm naturally gravitating towards helping these people. It didn't scare you, it empowered you. And that's incredible. The other thing I want to ask is how long before you told your dad about medical school? Because then you had to grin and bear it because you were kind of avoiding that because you had this grudge against him, right? So
I
what
did.
did your dad say?
When I went home, I put my tail between my legs. I said, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to medical school."
Oh, that's so
And
funny.
he was so happy. He tried to hold
Mm,
back his happiness because he know that this is the right thing for me. He knew that it was. And I recently put a post on my Instagram saying how a great warrior he is. He had his own battles that I didn't know of. during that time, but he was quite happy. And he kept telling me, like he sat down with me and said, "Why don't you apply for this school, this school, this school?" And I said, "My grades wouldn't get me there, but it will get me in those four. Let's hope it's gonna happen." And at that time, if you don't get into a local medical school, you're gonna have to go to Europe, uh,
Okay.
yeah, Romania or whatever, which will accept you there, but it's a different kind of setup. So I was happy that I got accepted in there, in Egypt, in one of the really good schools.
Amazing. I had a similar conversation with my dad, and he was really hard on us as kids, like really hard on us, and like perfectionist, wanting us to strive for the best. Like A wasn't good enough. It's like A plus all the way, and my brother was that way. And 3 years ago, Christmas time, we had a couple drinks. And he said, "I'm sorry I was so hard on you, but I'm so damn proud of you." And I said, "You know what? That's okay, Dad. I know what your intention was. I know that what he went through was kind of projecting onto us. What he wanted for us was like such a good life, and he saw something in me. So we never know what people are going through. So your dad's story speaks wholly for what he wanted for you, in my humble opinion. But that's incredible.
It is. When I had my first kid, I realized that we don't have training in raising kids. There's no books that will tell you, okay, how you raise this kid.
Yeah.
And there's no courses that I can take that will show me, okay,
Right.
what should I do? So you
Yeah.
have no formal training, there is no playbook, and you're just given this little thing that absolutely rely on you. So I hold them in my hands. I said, my God, I'm gonna look after this kid for 18 years. And my wife laughed and said, "Yeah, for the rest of for the rest of your life. Used to be 18 years. Now they don't go away, Lisa." So,
They don't. They truly don't.
so I laughed. I said, "Okay, but it's pretty scary." And
Yeah.
I'm a deep sleeper, so I sleep through whatever. But
Oh,
you
I'm so
can
jealous.
see, yeah, you can see that the minute just he just moves in his own bed, in his own
Hmm.
room. She wakes up and says, "Okay, there's something wrong." We don't get to learn this anywhere, and they just given this. So for your father, for my father, um, now the life came full circle. I understand. He never knew what to do. It probably was scary, like it is scary to me, right? And we're just gonna try to do our best.
Yeah. It's crazy. All the situations that we're so excited for those next things, and then they come into our lives, and then it's like you have this holy shit moment. It's like, oh my
Yep,
God, I didn't see this coming, and then you just
yep,
have to make it work. I never
yep,
had a child of my own, like I've never given birth, but I did get a dog, and I remember bringing the dog home, and he was like a little shit, ripping up all my stuff, chewing on my sandals, and I was like, oh my God, now I'm stuck with you. I got to look after you, and it was like a
yep,
similar feeling. Probably not as intense. I guarantee it's not as intense, but I can relate to that. Like I wanted to give it back at certain
yep.
points. I'm like this responsibility is crazy. But oh
It
man, so
is.
let's go back to let's college. But you so you ended up there. You were telling your story. You're in college, and then what happened after your university?
So during university, two things happen in there. So in my last years of university, my mom got sick, and she ended up with breast cancer. It was
Mm.
quite the shock. I was really shocked. And during her treatment, I was devastated. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a year off. My father was still working abroad. I said, I'm going to take a year off and look after her. And she absolutely refused that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And that helped me with resilience, right? No matter what's going on,
She didn't want your help. She didn't want assistance, or what was she
she didn't want
pushing?
my help,
Yeah.
but she didn't want me to stop my studies.
Okay.
She didn't want me to stop what I'm doing. She didn't want me to put me a year behind than my friends. So I said, okay, I can do both. And I did both.
Okay.
I looked after her, me and my sister. We had shifts, as well as um, I finished that year. It was so hard, but I said, you know what? I think I'm going to be a breast surgeon, and I will see if her treatment was optimal or not worldwide. So I'm not going to only look for the treatments in Egypt, but I would like to go to the US and finish off there, which I did. Finish my internship, residency, and I get a fellowship in Columbus, Ohio, in breast cancer and breast reconstruction. So it was quite fascinating. I couldn't get a job, and at that time, my visa, if I can get a job and switch my visa, I have to leave. So I left, right? My plan was to stay there, right? To stay there, get a job in Cleveland Clinic or somewhere around, which didn't, right? So I ended up in Canada, right? Finished uh,
Oh.
my fellowship. N- didn't know anything about Canada whatsoever. My cousin lives in Canada. He was studying pharmacy at that time in Egypt as well. Come for a visit. We talk. He tell me how is his life in Canada, but that's about it. Didn't know anything about the system. So he asked me to come for a visit. So I did. And I met in the first week. That wasn't my way back to Egypt. Met in the first week, few of my friends, classmate friends. I said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm just visiting, seeing Niagara Falls, see what's Toronto is all about and what's Canada. All what we know about Canada, they are nice people living um, on the north of the US. That's all what I knew. Said, okay, no, the healthcare system here is just amazing. It is pretty safe, and education is good, and all this are free. I said, okay, that's great because I believe that people should get education, treatment for free. So how can I start? They showed me the way, and of course, had exams. Um, Unfortunately, they didn't realize my education in the US or in Egypt. So I had to go into the beginning, did the exams, and they said, okay, I don't have much money left. So I literally came with one pair of pants, uh, shoes, and just a fall jacket, not even a heavy jacket. Didn't know that the weather
Wow.
can go that cold. Yeah. So I had to find a job, side job, getting paid in cash and survive for a few months till I finish my exams. Then get a job in Eastern Canada. I went first to Winnipeg. It was too cold.
That's where I'm at.
I said
It
it's
is
too
cold.
cold. Yeah, it's too cold. Let's go somewhere a little warmer. So I went to Newfoundland, right? Which is little warmer but more snow, way more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Really?
it's
Okay.
it was just the 2 years that I was in Newfoundland. They said those were the worst snow years in 50 years. I went home after a clinic one day in Newfoundland, and it was no snow on the ground. I woke up, couldn't find my car from the snow.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So for me to see that much snow was just shocking. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go
Okay.
upstairs and jump from the window upstairs, right? Then I decided, I said, where am I going? I can't even get my car out
Yeah.
because I couldn't open the door. So I spent 24 hours until they shoveled the snow and they dug me out to go to the clinic at that day. So it was a really nice journey. Uh, very um, very nice people in Newfoundland, all across the Canadian province that I've worked. I met really great, generous, welcoming, understanding people.
Let me ask you this. Were you always just a really adventurous person? Because I know not a lot of people can just go from one place to another and just make it work and adapt. Like, are you into astrology? What is your sign? I'm so curious.
I I'm a Cancer.
Okay.
Um, born in July 14th. I'm not gonna say the year again, but
No one would believe you if you did.
so it's I've never been adventurous, and I always ask my friends who live abroad during medical school or during high school, how can you do it? How can you just leave friends and family and
Yeah,
behind and just go? But my mom pushed me, said, "Go for your fellowship." The day that I got the fellowship letter, um, I was actually sad. I was just say, "Okay, now I have to decline this because I've never ever um, lived on my own before that." And I said, "That's gonna be hard." I said, "Just go, go for a few months, and you can come back." Right? So I did spend a year and a bit. When I moved to Canada, my cousin and my friends used to hide my passport because you get
yeah,
homesick initially. I said, "I'm going back." Right?
yeah,
And sure enough, without that, I would have just went back. So, and then after the first 2 years, it becomes a second nature, right?
yeah,
You meet new people. I love meeting new people. I love helping people. I love making a difference. Um, and looking at the healthcare outside metropolitan cities is just fascinating. You're everything. I had the first day I start working in Newfoundland. My mom brought her son had an asthma attack and to my door, actually to the house that they gave me, and I put him on the couch and I started giving him puffers and whatnot, and it was just amazing feeling. The first time I delivered the baby on my own, it was just an amazing feeling. You're everything for those. They trusted me to the point that
yeah.
I had an older gentleman in Newfoundland that brought his dog.
Okay.
So I went in the exam room and there's a dog on the exam table. I said, "Okay, whatever. It might be a service dog." I said, "No, the dog is the patient today."
Oh, no.
I said, "But I'm not, but I'm not
Yeah.
a vet." And the guy started tearing. He said, "I don't know what happened to him. He's gonna die. He's the only thing that I have." I said, "Okay, hang on. Tell me the story. I might be able to help." So he said he ate a full box of chocolate. So I know
Oh,
that the chocolate will
that's
give,
bad.
yeah, I know that that dog probably have constipation. So I felt the belly, and sure enough, the dog was extremely bloated and distended. I said, "Okay, so here's a pair of gloves. Go do what you need to do in there."
Shit, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Oh
This guy
man.
came back a few days later and he tried to give me his golden watch. I said, "Sorry, I can't accept that, but I'm really happy
Wow.
your dog is doing good." Yeah. I had old folks in there, their kids left for Alberta or whatever, and they used to bring me letters from the government asking my opinion, how they can respond and what they should respond. It was just fascinating.
That is fascinating, but also so, I don't know. I've always wanted to ask someone like you, like, what is that like? Because when I was in my, when you're dealing with people, they're in their most absolute, most vulnerable, like absolute most
Yeah.
vulnerable. So they're relying on you to essentially save them from something. Something is terribly wrong. And as someone who's in charge of that can be a lot. Like, has it ever affected you? I'm sure you have stories that didn't end up well, and that can be really difficult. But how do you balance that?
Um, it is very hard, Lisa, especially the first um, career that I have, and I'm quite lucky and privileged that I have had few careers, right? So the first time when I was breast cancer, breast reconstruction, just breaking the news, it wasn't easy. And you've
Or someone
seen
passed away?
people pass away. We couldn't save
Yeah.
younger. One of my youngest patients at that time was 18 years old, aggressive breast cancer. It was discovered less than few months and it spread everywhere, right? And it just, we couldn't do much for her. And she passed away, and that hit me hard. My first time was during internship, the first day in labor and delivery. Um, the first baby we delivered, he was dead. I sat down at the corner of the OR and I cried and cried and cried. And I went home. I said, that's it. I'm going to find
Oh my
something else. I'm
God.
going back to
That was the
business.
first one. The
And it
first
was the
one.
first one. And it was, yeah, I
Oh,
was dead. And it just took me by storm and it hit me hard. I went home, closed my door, sat down in the couch in my bedroom, and it just um, kept thinking and just going back, something like a mini PTSD. It just was
yeah,
terrible. And I said, I'm not going back. After 1 week like this, my friends came and opened the doors. Said, what's going on? This is part of the job. You're
right.
gonna have to keep going.
Yeah, perhaps maybe you had this idea of that everything was going to be good, like everything is positive. You're saving in that at that time you're not experienced, right? So you're expecting this amazing feeling from helping people and delivering a baby and maybe that was the universe showing you reality. Like this
Yeah,
is how
and
this
it
is
will
they
hit
were
you
prepping
hard.
you.
This is the other side of medicine. I call it the ugly side, but it does happen and it is part of it.
Yeah,
But you gotta have to be there for the family. As a
yeah,
doctor, you have to be there for the family. When I worked in ER, I remember a patient as well walking through the door for something just simple. I can't remember, a chest infection, whatever. And the guy was quite yellow. I said, weird. Have you noticed that your skin is turning yellow recently? He said, no. And his wife said, yeah, I've noticed for the past few weeks. So did a
what does
CAT
that mean?
scan. Sure enough, he's got cancer liver, cancer pancreas, which one of the worst cancers, because pancreatic cancer is hidden in the body and we don't discover it until it's really late
Okay.
because it's just hiding in there. So anyway, I had to break the news, and that was my first time to just really break news that kind of, okay, you know what, that's it. You've got such time to live and whatnot, and these are the only options that we can do just to make you comfortable. That was the first time. So I sat down, I followed the protocols, sit down at the patient level, whatever they teach you in books, and the guy looked at me. He said, you know what, son, I lived a good life. I will never forget that, Lisa. It was such a moment that, wow, number one, the peace that this guy showed, not only the peace, it just, what is a good life? You get, you like, I was young and I said, okay, what is a good life? What is a full
Yeah.
life? Right? And I sat down and I said, wow, I wonder if when my time comes, would I say I lived a full life? Would I say, okay, I lived a good life? How does that work? Until today, it just stuck in my mind and it wouldn't go away. The face of the guy, the peace on his face, and I lived a good life. You know what I mean? I go back and if I ask you this question, Lisa, now, do you think you are living a good life? What would be your answer?
I would say yes, but I want so much more. I wouldn't want it to be over.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The way that they teach you at strategic coach for business and business owners and whatnot, you have to plan that you're going to live to 150 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
With your help, I feel like that's possible.
Yes, in a healthy way, I think we'll be able to do that. I think if the research continues
Yeah.
in that direction and that speed, I think we'll be able to. But their plan is you got a plan there. So you always have something to do. You always have big plans. You don't sit down and say, okay, I can retire now because we all know that retire is to expire, right? And I've seen my grandfather and that affected me, so I will never retire. He was school teacher, then he was the head of a school, and after that he retired at young age and he started going down pretty fast. Yeah. So yeah, so
Wow,
it's
it's
quite
crazy.
fascinating. Yeah,
The
so
purpose,
I
the purpose, right?
it
The
is.
purpose.
It is. It's the purpose, something that wake you up in the morning, keep you up at night
Yeah,
sometime, get your heart pumping a little faster was excitement. It just this is life. And as I always say, um, after this, I thought that event with that patient, I thought, you know what, we're not here really just to open business, finish medical school or finish school, travel. I think we have a little bit more of a purpose. We are founded on this earth at this time for a purpose to make a difference, to help people and other people um, lives better, enrich their life, and help them with their pursuit of happiness, right?
yeah,
If we'll be able to do that, Lisa, I think we achieved our purpose, and I will be able to say, you know what, I had a good life, right?
absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
that will be amazing that they will say, you know what, Dr. Damien helped me um, overcome the pain. He helped push forward anti-aging and regenerative medicine. I would be so excited, right? And it's funny because in the clinic, I start using GHK copper as a face cream for an experiment that I'm doing, right?
Okay.
So, which is the fountain of youth. So, going to the clinic the other day, the whole staff are using GHK copper.
Nice.
Yeah, now they believe in, okay, I think I'm up to something. If I can make that much difference, even in a small scale, it's just so fulfilling. And it's just funny that people said, okay, he keep talking about this peptides. We might as well just try it.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
gonna
And
happen?
I
Yeah.
literally have a poll and I said if you can guess this guy's age, it's you. I will give you $1,000. That's what I said. So so far no
Let me
one's even
know.
close. I won't tell them. I won't tell them
I
because no one's gonna get it right.
had a patient she's been my patient, her daughter and granddaughter have been my patients for a good 10 years at least. Said, oh, your birthday is coming. How old are you gonna be? 30s? Said,
Yep.
okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I want to ask you then, where was the shift towards the pain care management and the anti-aging? When did that happen?
So
And then
yeah, so I moved
I
to
want to
Canada.
ask you some fun stuff at the end.
Yeah, I moved to Canada and couldn't get back to surgery. Um, would have taken me a little bit longer,
Okay.
doing more intense exams of the Royal College, and it will take me probably 2 years. Didn't have the money. Um, I worked in a
So
local shawarma
what
place.
was that like? Did you just study all the time? Like
Yeah,
doctor, school, medical school? So you just all day, all night?
yes,
Wow. Okay.
yes.
Sorry, I had to ask you that.
I
Keep going.
wasn't qualified to work at Tim Hortons
Jeez.
when I came to Canada. Yeah. Yeah. I said, oh, you're overqualified. I said, okay, but I need the job.
Oh,
Yeah. So I worked at a local shawarma place and I said, a little bit too greasy. I can't study there. So
yeah.
let me work in a coffee shop. I'll be able to study at night. And
Yeah.
yes, I was studying all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
So yeah, so I did my exams, initial exams, got a job, um, ended up in Newfoundland, worked as a family physician, and then said, okay, I'll do family physician until I do another exam, and I'll be able to come back to Ontario, which is a little bit bigger. I can do a little bit more, and After 8 months, I was just dying. I just so boring.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Got
uh,
it.
yeah,
Common
I loved
cold. You
helping
saw so
people.
many of the common colds way too often, or
Yeah, it just, it's a great job, right?
yeah,
I used to
but
work
not
as
for
a
you.
surgeon with my hands,
Yeah,
right? So you come to me, okay, here's your antibiotic, here's your
yeah,
blood pressure medication. It just wasn't for me. I like adrenaline,
yes.
as you expressed earlier. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do something different. And one night I was going to cover another clinic for the weekend. They called me from the local hospital. Said, Dr. Damian, have you ever worked in emergency? I said,
Okay.
no, but I know my CPR. I'm stitched. So they said, okay, I think we're up for something. Come over. The doctor that was supposed to cover the weekend had a heart attack
Okay.
and he couldn't cover. So I covered there for 48 hours, actually longer than 48 hours. And the staff were so accommodating. There was a hockey tournament at that time in there. So a lot of bumps and cuts and sutures. Enjoyed it so much. Delivered babies. It was such an amazing experience, and the staff were very accommodating. Said, Dr. Damien, you need to rest. So 48-hour shift is a little bit long. So they gave me breaks, 2 hours here, 2 hours there to go for a quick nap. And I just loved it. Went back to my clinic on Monday. I said, I think I'm going to do this. I like it. It's
Wow.
very exciting. And that changed my life. Again, hope is not a hope is not a plan, but no matter how much we plan, things change. And that pushed me towards emergency medicine. It's not only emergency medicine, I was actually the only flying doctor during the winter months in Newfoundland. They leave you somewhere for 2 weeks to cover, right?
Wow. Like
With
remote?
yeah, with very
Okay.
limited supplies
Yeah,
to do
that's
whatever.
crazy.
Love it. I was single, young, no kids, not even a dog, so I can go anywhere I want. And I
Yeah,
enjoyed it so much. I was basically living in a suitcase.
right.
And then loved Newfoundland, but I wanted to do more. Then I went to Prince Edward Island because they they built a new hospital with all the toys, ultrasound and whatever in the emergency department. So I said, okay, now it's time to just upgrade my skills. And I loved it in Prince Edward Island. And then Prince Edward Island was too small because they started bringing physicians, couldn't find enough shifts. And I started dating a girl in Nova Scotia. So I moved to Nova Scotia, right? My plan to stay in Prince Edward Island for 2 years was only 7 months. Then Nova Scotia. I said I'm gonna stay in Nova Scotia for 5 years. And sure enough, I stayed for almost 4.5 years, worked in every single emergency department in Nova Scotia. I opened my first business, which is an urgent care. I had four of them, and I was able to said, okay, I think I'm settled now. I'm going to stay longer. There's nothing wrong. If I want to go to Ontario, I can always fly to Ontario, right? But my dreams were a little bit bigger than this. So I moved to Ontario, where I met my friend, my wife. I said, okay, now there is a reason. I
Oh,
was
so
just
you broke
flying
some
back and
hearts
forth.
in PEI.
Yeah, it was always a girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. You're never the wife. I get it. Yeah, you met her
Yeah, and
in
then
Ontario.
yeah, and then I met my wife. She was actually from Vancouver, and she was starting as one of her offices. She had a big business with 12 offices across Canada, and she was just establishing her office in Ontario at that time. So that few months that she was in Ontario, we met, and we both decided, okay, we're gonna stay. Again, you can
Incredible.
plan whatever you want, but it just happened this way.
Yeah.
So I moved. I said, okay, Ontario is a good place. I can start bigger business. This is when I started my first business. I did home renovation and flipping homes and what was quite amazing in Ontario. Uh, but I wanted more. I want more active business. So I started a business. That business was putting screens in medical offices and emergency departments to educate patient
Okay.
about healthy living and what to do and what not. Was some ads in there, and it didn't work.
Oh, really? Why?
It, um, we had great content, but nobody wanted to advertise. It was just a new way of advertisement, and we couldn't support it.
Okay.
So
I thought the
after,
message wasn't getting across. I thought that's what you meant.
yeah, and no, the message was great, and people loved it. It just we needed somebody to pay for all this now.
Right. Yeah. That damn money, hey?
That's right.
My money machine's broken, so now I'm earning it.
So yeah, it was a great idea. People loved it. Doctors loved it because it kept the waiting room really quiet and nice, and people actually
Yes.
watching. People were watching what we're doing, but no, it didn't. It didn't go well. And one night I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go bankrupt." Shut it down. Paid
Yeah.
everyone. Send an email to the doctors. You can keep the screens, and we shut it down. This is when I was sitting on that day. I was sitting on the stairs going upstairs at the bottom of the stairs with my hand like this. I said, okay, we're going to go bankrupt.
Now what?
My wife coming down, I will never forget that. And she said, you're doing too much. You're overstretching yourself. So
Yeah,
why don't you
focus.
focus on one thing
Yes.
and be the best at it? I said, you know what?
Love that.
I think it makes sense. I went back full force to just medicine, to my
Yes.
passion and helping people stop doing renovations, stop buying homes, stop renting homes, close the business, paid all my debt, and I pushed hard into chronic pain. At that time, we were just newly married, and even my marriage is just a funny story because I was so busy doing a lot of things, never kept a relationship more than 6 months.
Right.
Lisa, they wouldn't stay more than 6 months. You're
Oh,
too
it's
busy. I
hard.
can't see you. You know what? Good luck. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to be independent and want things. You need someone who's okay with that lifestyle and it is also just as independent,
It
who
is.
can satisfy themselves without you around, but still want you around.
That's right. And I told my wife, you know what? I really like you. And then if we're able to stay together for 6 months, we will get engaged. 1 year, we'll get married.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
the plan, right? Before 6 months, I proposed, and
Oh,
before the year, we were married.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the best decision ever. It was quite spontaneous, but it was just the right thing.
Yeah, it just felt right.
Yeah, and yeah, she told me she had a great business experience. She was nominated top 40 under 40 when she was young, and then um, married, celebrate, and stay home and build a family. And when my career was taking off, she did that, and we tried to have kids initially, didn't work, right? And one day I said, okay, you know what? Don't be sad. We're gonna go and try um, uh, artificial. And they said, okay, let's do it. I left the check, and 2 days later said, I'm pregnant. I woke up and she showed me, yeah, I'm pregnant.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I said, Where's my check?" No, but
That's crazy.
It is.
But you make a good point. You speak it into the universe, and that's how manifestation happens.
I was talking to my um, global president of the company about that. Lisa, I am a dreamer, right? And I know for sure, and this is, if anybody's listening, you have to leave it in the universe,
Yeah.
right? Don't calculate. Our single only limitation is our mindset.
Hmm.
Right? When I say I'm gonna build $1 billion company, um, it will happen.
Yeah.
When I say we will have a good healthcare system in Canada, a two-tier, we will be able to provide patients what they need, we'll be able to change lives, it will happen, right? Um, it just unbelievable. I always thought that people are just optimistic when they tell you just visualize what your plan is, but it's re-manifestation. It's just you have to leave it out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I think it, feel it, see it. I act like it's already happening, like I'm so clear on that. But I was challenged because my, I guess, energy master said to me, you have to ask for humility and surrender. Because sometimes I find, just like, someone like you, we work so hard. We have such big dreams, but I've got a lot of hard edges. So I'm starting to soften those hard edges to be more rounded, to like be okay with whatever, be a little more fluid, because I could be a little rigid in my ways with perfectionism and all of that. So now it's more fantasy, like more energetics. And that's really helping me, like, just remain in the moment and just trusting that the universe is delivering me what it's delivering me.
that's right.
So
No matter what
yeah.
we're gonna plan, doesn't mean to go without a plan. It doesn't mean at all.
Yes. Oh my God, that drives me nuts when people say that. I'm just waiting for the universe and I'm gonna lay in bed all day. I'm
No.
like, I'm gonna kill you. Like, get out of
I did
bed.
that initially when I started a small business coffee shop during my internship uh, in Egypt and had no plan. So, you know what? I'm just gonna hustle. It's gonna get big. Sure enough, but after I think 8 months, the government shut it down. Just didn't like the idea, didn't like the street, didn't like how busy we were at that time. And they said, you know what, this area is really a residential area, just too much. And they shut it
Right,
down.
right.
And then all my dreams um, just came down. It was just a dream that this is going to get big and whatever. And I had to go back, finish my internship, residency and whatnot. But you can, you can dream whatever you want, but without a plan, it just never gonna happen,
Yeah. I
right?
bet you can look back at that moment though when it didn't succeed to today and know why that happened. Because everything is also a lesson, right?
It
So you
is.
probably learned something in that moment that prepared you for the next big thing, even though it felt like a loss in that moment.
It is. And I look at it, if I would have got it, if it worked, I would have been just a business owner. I would never have
Yeah,
finished internship or residency or became a surgeon. And
right,
if I was able to get a job in the US, I would have been just another breast surgeon, right?
right,
A good one, I hope, but nothing more.
right.
And if I didn't get married and my wife said, you know what, we really need a 9 to 5 job, right? I would have never looked into chronic pain. I was very happy with emergency medicine and hustling into um, houses and home development and flipping homes, right? And if that worked well for me, I would have been just another landlord or maybe a contractor that had a medical degree with. I know friends, I know physicians are doing that. They left medicine altogether and they just doing that, right? If it had worked. So everything just happens for really a reason, but just leave it to the universe and just you gotta have to believe. Like I believe deep in my heart um, that we will build $1 billion company. And it's not for the money, Lisa. That will reflect a million case that we helped the spinal surgery, a million case of spinal procedure that we've done. That's
Wow.
my number. So I can
That's
say I would
incredible.
like to have a million spine procedure or whatever, but I know that investors would love the number. Then
Yeah,
they don't care much about million procedure, like whatever, right?
right. That's incredible. You've had such a journey. I have a couple of fun things I want to ask you about. So the race car stuff. Tell us about the race car stuff.
So the race car is just pretty funny. Before getting married, I said, okay, I was always scared to have somebody in my life that will control my life, right? As
Right,
every single guy, Lisa, just not knowing, especially because I never had a long-term relationship
right.
before that. Um, so I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go get myself a gift before she come in and control my life. So my wedding gift was a sports car, Porsche,
Okay.
right?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So that was the beginning. So they invite you there for a Porsche group, Porsche club, and to go on the track, right? So I
Nice.
did, and it just fascinates me. Then I said, okay, let me take Porsche driving school. So I did reach the masters in there because I was really good at it. And then beyond that, I said, I'm just gonna start racing, um, amateur racing, and I just loved it.
Yeah, the adrenaline.
That it add the adrenaline, it's just the focus and the precision,
Mm,
right? From and I don't know if this is just me or because of my job or my background as a surgeon. I just like this precision.
right.
It was
Yeah,
just that
it's an art. It truly is an art.
it
Because I
is.
was telling you off air, like I used to watch it in a past relationship, and you're like millimeters from the guy in front of you, and you're planning your like zoom out so you could pass, and it all has to do with air and velocity and like all of these things. But one minor mistake can
Yeah,
cause you disaster the
it
whole
is.
track. So that's crazy because you're relying on yourself, but everybody else have the same damn precision mindset, which is insane. So
It just such an amazing harmony.
yeah,
I know from outside people look at it as just a race and it's chaos and whatnot, but it's not. Everybody knows
no,
what they're doing, when to press the gas, when to push the brakes, how hard you push the brakes. Otherwise, the guy behind you wouldn't have enough time to brake and would just hit you.
yeah,
Yeah, and it just needs patience because you're accumulating seconds every turn to just get a better number. So every turn around the track, you're just shaving maybe milliseconds until
yeah,
you actually hit a good spot. So yeah, it was
crazy.
just yeah, and then I hurt my back one day. I couldn't get in the car, and this is when things change fast. I was at the
Got it.
gym lifting a heavy weight, and I heard click.
Oh,
Lovely.
ow,
Yeah. Next day, couldn't get out of bed,
shit.
and my doctors in the clinic started doing injections, procedures, whatnot, and then did MRI. Sure enough, I torn a disc.
Got it.
You need surgeries. No, 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 no. We're not gonna go surgery in the back. Let me try something else.
Right.
So tried everything possible, and sure enough, after 1 year, the pain subsided. I had sciatic pain for 6 months, every day going to work, um, I realize how much patients suffer
Yeah,
and how much this weighs on your mental health, Lisa,
it
right?
does. Happened to me at the beginning of the year. Just spasm, could not move, couldn't get out of bed, but still did force myself to. But I was just like depressed. I was like a happy yet depressed version of Lisa because it was like I know my potential and I know what I want to be doing. I can't imagine living like that chronically
That's right.
forever. And so I was just like, I can't, you're like holding back and I don't want to rely on anybody to help me with stuff, but I had to in those moments. And it really gives you perspective.
It does.
Yeah.
And you think, is this gonna be my life
Oh,
moving
yeah,
forward?
totally. Yes.
How much I should modify? Couldn't lift my kids, couldn't. I was very angry
Yeah.
and I was not able to sleep, so I get more anxious.
Yeah.
Couldn't go to the gym, so I start losing muscle mass. I get more upset with yourself, and then you start eating different. You're not going to the gym anyway,
Yeah.
right?
It just bleeds. It's just a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It can
It,
go both ways, positive or negative.
yeah. And then I said, okay, I'm not gonna live like that. And I start looking into this. But the real change from chronic pain to regenerative medicine, two things. Again, at the gym, I hurt myself. I was doing abs and somebody distracted with weights, and somebody distracted me at the gym, and I heard my abdominal muscle rip like a
Ouch.
tear in your jeans.
Yeah. Ah,
Couldn't get out of bed the next day. Couldn't. We don't
ouch.
realize how much we rely on our abdominal muscle. Even sneezing,
Yeah.
right? It hurt.
Laughing.
Yeah,
Laughing.
hurt. So I was just miserable. And then one of the doctors said, let's try PRP. I said, yeah,
Right.
it's not going to work. I'm going to call a surgeon and they're probably going to be a hernia now. He injected me every other week with PRP. It was very primitive at that time. That was many years ago. And then slowly started getting better. After 8 weeks, I was back to the gym with no pain doing abs again.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is. So I start believing in this and I start promoting it and talking about it to patients. There was much, I don't think there were a lot of research in there yet, but great results. So I start believing in it. When the younger son born, he had blockages in both kidneys.
Okay.
So he had enlarged kidney, enlarged ureter, and we discovered this by chance. He had a birthmark in his back. We looked at it with ultrasound. My wife called me crying. He said, this is what they found. I said, let's take him to sick kids in Toronto. I said, no, I'm going to take him to Hamilton um, Pediatric Hospital. So we went there because I'm affiliated and I teach at McMaster. And I'm going to meet you after the clinic. So I did, and he couldn't find an answer. So we called pediatrician friend, and he couldn't see him in a timely fashion. Said, okay, I understand. Called my wife. Let's go to the Mayo Clinic.
Okay.
We booked the following week. He was 10 days by then. 10 days with IV fluids and a catheter. It's just heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking. That'd be tough to see. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just really hard. But he is growing so resilient now, Lisa. It's just pretty amazing to see him. I think this is because everything that he went through. So holding him and going to the Mayo Clinic for examination, meeting with a pediatrician, um, urologist, nephrologist, a full day of medical consultation was such an amazing system at the end of the day, I said, why can't we have something like this for pain? And that's something else that I'm really working on. It just, you get injured, like you said, you come to one place, you see, you get your MRI, you see a pain specialist, you see anti-aging regenerative, you see a surgeon, and you see a neurologist. We all have a plan at the end of the day. And Lisa, here's your plan. We'll sit down and discuss the best options for you, for your lifestyle, customize it, and we can start treatment tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream because that all of that, it takes like a year because all of those are different appointments,
It is. And
specialist appointments. And then you got to wait for results. And then you have to wait for the next step. And then there's no cohesion between it all. It's all
yeah,
choppy and right. So
that's
I
the worst thing.
totally see your vision. That's
Yeah.
that's crazy.
The worst thing is us as a specialist, we don't communicate. So I don't know what the
Yeah,
neurosurgeon said. I don't know what the neurologist said.
right.
And I
So
have
they
to beg
stop
for
it starting from
reports.
square
Yeah,
one every time.
it is. It's just
Wow.
so frustrating for the patient and for us as a specialist,
And that's
right?
good for us patients to know is that we need to really communicate and listen to what we're being told, document it, and bring it to the next appointment, right?
Yes.
It's not just on you, it's on us too, because I think people rely too much on doctors. And we think that you're like mighty, almighty, and God in a sense. Like it's true. But we have to take responsibility for our own health as well as a patient from a patient perspective and to bring you that information because how are you supposed to know
Yeah.
what you don't know? And
I,
everyone's so different, like so different.
I agree. And that's why we're hoping to build a platform this year to put all your notes in it. So you have an
Mm,
access. And then when you go to other specialists, this is what Dr. Damian is doing.
right. Yeah,
And
that's
they will
brilliant.
have an access to input what they're doing. So when
Yeah.
you come back to me, I'll be able to see and understand what exactly was said. Because there is a study at Harvard showing that as a patient, if I tell you this are the 10 things we're going to do, you probably end up just remembering three.
Right. Yeah.
It's normal.
Very
Right?
normal. Yeah. It's overwhelming,
Yeah,
especially if
especially,
you're in a state of vulnerability and
yeah,
pain and you're hurting, you're not thinking clearly.
yeah. But it's not
So you
only,
leave and you're wondering, what did the doctor say? Oh my God, that's happened to me a million times.
yeah, but it's just this fascinating study when I tell you, you know what, Lisa, your back has so whatever a disc herniation, and if you do a deadlift, this disc can go out and cut your spinal cord, and you'll end up paralyzed. All what you're gonna remember from this that I can get paralyzed.
Yeah.
You wouldn't remember anything else.
No, and that's terrifying.
It is. But this is not exactly what I said. I said, do not do deadlifts
Yes.
or it will do, you know what I mean? So it just, the patient will focus on the really bad news and
Yeah.
then we'll leave everything else um, outside that. So anyway, get my son, going back to my son's story, it's went to the Mayo Clinic and they said, we saved his umbilical cord blood. So I think we should use it. They agreed. They used it, had an infusion of stem cells, and it helped his kidneys.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And since then, I've been fascinating with regenerative medicine, stem cells, and now it's not only this, because it's not available for everyone. I cannot go back and save my umbilical cord blood, unfortunately.
No.
But I can do the same with peptides.
Mm,
Peptides are so potent, amino acid, natural from our gastric juice, and it can signal to the body to do the same, very close to what stem cells can do.
incredible. And if you guys missed it, the last episode we went deep on peptides, and Dr. Damian really explained the different types, what they do, what to expect, and their power. And I've taken a deep dive as well, and I'm just completely fascinated. So it's really amazing stuff. So before we wrap up today, what are some things you want to leave the audience with? In terms of your story, maybe the ending. I don't know. There probably is a lot more we could go into.
Um, Hope is not a plan. I always say that. I always encourage anybody that I mentor or I meet that trying to find their way that hope is not a plan. You have to have a plan. And we were taught this in Harvard School. Have a plan. You want to be billionaire, you want to achieve something in life, you want to have just a good life. What does that mean? And have a plan. And the more you plan it with more details, you can actually visualize it and you will leave it out there in the universe. It will come to you. That being said, like Lisa said, be flexible. Don't be so rigid. If the plan or your path took you somewhere else, that's a higher power directing you to something even better. So just go with it. Don't pull away. You left your plan in the universe. You're going with solid steps. But if your path took you somewhere else, this is higher power and trust. Every time they pulled me away from my plan, the higher power or God pulled me away from my plan, he gave me something way better. I think I would really would like to leave this as a message to the listener. And I've not only seen it in myself, I've seen it with my kids, I've seen it with my wife, with a lot of successful people that they planned their life, but the plan didn't work out, and God took them somewhere else, way better than any plan they ever made.
Yeah, I agree. Amen to that. Thank you so much for being here today. It's always so awesome chatting with you, and thanks for providing more insight on your personal life and your personal story.
I really appreciate it, and thanks for having me, Lisa. I hope um, my story will inspire someone in a certain way. Thanks a lot.
It definitely inspired me, and I know our listeners are also inspired. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. You just heard from Dr. Damien, who shared his powerful story. Just it's always been so intriguing to hear from a doctor like him who has a passion to want to help so many people. And you heard what he said. So listen to the universe. Don't be rigid, you guys. Smooth out those corners and enjoy the ride because life is always an adventure. Until next time, I'm Lisa Urbanski with The Advisor. Bye for now. Have a good weekend.